No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. And today we have someone who is a legend above all legends, perhaps. One of the most legendary figures we ever had on here. Twista is in the building. How you doing, man?
Thank you, my brother. How you doing, Adam?
Oh, I'm doing excellent, man. You're one rapper that I can honestly say that I knew about you before I ever heard you rap, because I remember reading in the source about the legend that was Twista in like the early 90s when I was like a little kid in elementary school. And you know, the Twista sales pitch is like, this guy's the fastest rapper in the world. And I had to hear it. I had to figure out what was going on. And that was like a long ass time ago. So it's kind of crazy when I think about how long Twista has been a thing in my brain.
It's been a while, right?
Even before I heard you. That's crazy, man.
That's love.
Pretty wild. Yeah, you're someone who's been doing it for about as long as we can imagine. What year would you say it was when you really started actually like getting into the rap game? Tell us a little bit about the early days.
The early days, like I started rapping very early, like probably 13, 14 years old. And then by the time I got signed on my first deal, which was with Loud Records.
Right.
So I was like the first artist on Loud Records. And at the time I was probably like 18, something like that.
Right.
So I remember me and Com came out around the same time. Me and Com around that same time. So these was the early years. That's when I came out.
What year did you first sign with, what year was it when you signed with Loud?
Man, that was early, like what, 90, 91 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, how would you characterize your life prior to that? Like how did you grow up? What were the circumstances like? Let's hear a little bit about that.
Man, just really in the hood, man. Like, you know, from the west side of Chicago. That's where I was born at, on the west side of Chicago. Hood called K-Town. And just coming up in the neighborhood, you know, me, my brothers, sisters, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, we hear so much about Chicago in terms of, you know, what it is to be from the hood or in the streets out there. How was it different at that time? What are the biggest differences that stand out to you?
Technology. You know, around that time, your influences were more
local.
People that you could get to at school, in the neighborhood, your parents, things like that. Some stuff you would see maybe on TV, but now it's like so integrated. Everybody knows what everyone is doing and got opinions about what everyone is doing. You know, so it's a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, I always end up thinking about that in terms of like, you know, the gangbanging thing in particular. Like, it just must have been so different back in the day when like the other side of the town was a total mystery to you, / like you heard things, but you didn't get to have like a window into your enemy's exact thoughts on his Instagram story all day. That's a different level.
And then you didn't want them to know. You know, if you was about to get down in Chicago back then, if you had an enemy, it wasn't to be talked about. You know, you wanted to be silent about it. You know, so that's one thing that's different. Like, dad, they just gonna say it? You gonna let them know? You know?
Yeah, as a rap fan, you're pretty much always having that feeling. And in particular, like when you see it, like if you're ever trying to explain a rap beef to somebody who's older, a lot of times they'll just be like, and they're just saying this on the internet? Like, it's so mind blowing to them if they if they haven't been around it. It's like, yes, no, that's really how this works.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Definitely. But okay, so what about your family life? Like what was the support system that you had as a kid?
Man, I was cool. Like, you know, my mother raised us right. You know, I had a strong mother. You know, and she raised us right, and you know, came up with me and my brothers. You know, and then my sister. You know, my sisters, and you know, I had a typical hood upbringing. You know, nothing's coming to my mind at this particular time, but I had a typical upbringing. It was definitely hard, you know, so we had to make way, but you know, we came out of it, like I said, around 17, 18. Once I started getting it popping, you know, I was able to help a lot and things like that, and things started to turn around. So
what kind of music were you listening to when you were like a young kid, and how did hip hop start to become a presence in your brain?
Probably around the time when it started to affect me was LL Cool J, Run DMC, Beastie Boys. This the type of stuff I'm listening to at the time when I started to want to do it myself. You know, Fat Boys and Dougie Fresh was a big influence on me rapping.
Right.
It wouldn't be a me if it was no Fat Boys and Dougie Fresh. Those two specifically.
Right.
You know?
Definitely. And was it like everyone in your school was listening to rap, or was it still kind of smaller? From like, was it like the thing that everybody was listening to, or at that point was it still kind of like a fringe interest since you didn't have that many like local artists and shit?
Right. In Chicago, hip hop was like something that was. You had a lot of hip hoppers on the South Side, so me being from the West Side, there was an extra, like a extra thing as far as it not being something that was familiar to everybody. So I was like one of the only artists that was into it at that time. And no, you still had some dope ones at the time that was coming up, but definitely it was like a scarce thing when I was into hip hop, you know, in Chicago. Yeah.
Definitely. And so how did your actual interest in rap come to be?
Like I was saying,
Doing the actual rapping.
Doing actual rapping.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, I was into it, listening to all of the rappers that's doing their thing, mostly like a lot of East Coast artists. I still was listening to like NWA, a lot of the West Coast artists. Like I'm a fan of like artists you wouldn't even think of. I used to listen to Def Jeff, all type of artists. So it got to a level where I was into the beatboxing a lot, you know. I used to write rhymes for my guys, you know, my guy B in the Hood, my guy, or should I say my little brother. We had a little group and everything like that. But once I heard Dougie Fresh was rapping, it's like, man, he ain't just beatboxing, he rapping too.
Yeah.
You know, so that sparked my interest to actually want to be a rapper, was seeing Dougie Fresh not only beatboxing, but he was rapping too. So I'm like, man, I'm finna start rapping too.
Right. That's dope. But rapping to you at the time, I assume, was just kind of being with your friends on the street or in school and that kind of shit? Like you hadn't really thought about getting in the studio yet?
Of course, no. Like at that time, it was more so about rocking in the neighborhood, rocking my block, stuff like that. Like a few battles and stuff like that, and at school, stuff like that.
Definitely. You were battling dudes like people from school and stuff? Did you have any like...
That's how I came up, really.
Notable ones at the time? Okay.
Just...
But before there was ever a video camera?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of videotaping back then, but it was like a lot of local battles in the hood, like me with a certain guy from this hood, certain guy from this hood. Shout out to my boy Baby John. I used to battle Baby John in the hood, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Okay, so then how did you start to like really get your name out there? Or actually, I want to ask even before that, like when did you sort of realize that you were very good at rapping, and how did your style sort of start to form?
Man, really... I was rapping like I said, I was like spitting like rhymes that was normal, I would say.
Because when you say like LL Cool J, Run DMC, like flow wise, pretty simple and pretty slow. Like compared to what you do, you know, it's a completely fundamental other side of like what you could do flow wise.
Well, like Rakim was probably the top influence.
Right.
You know, like people like Dougie Fresh helped influence me to start rapping. People like Rakim helped me refine my style of rap. So if you listen to a lot of Rakim's lyrics, you will hear a lot of cadences where you'll be like, okay, I can see what Twista talking about, you know. So, but my rap style really just came from rapping normal and then start to put a little line or two in there, you know.
Right.
And then you doing it a little more and a little more. Then you start hearing other people doing it. Then one day I said, man, you know what? I want to be the one that's like known for this style the most. So I said, instead of doing it in little spurts, I'm gonna make a whole verse like this.
Right.
And I wrote this rap, it's the Mr. Tongue Twister, you know, and then I wrote a whole verse that sounded like that.
Right. And you didn't have anybody that you could have looked at that time that was rapping fast? Was there anybody that you could have looked at and said like, well, this guy is kind of like what I'm doing, but I'm gonna go more extreme version of it?
It was a few rappers that was doing their thing. Like I liked at that time I liked Fushnickens.
Oh right, yeah. Okay, they were already out.
Yeah. Me and Chip, like that's my guy right there. Like I like the way he does his thing. It's a few earlier. I liked the song Originators when I had heard that with Jay, Jazzo and Jay. I liked that song. That was one of the
That's
first.
A good point too.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, it was some out there doing their thing.
Definitely. And so, like, how do you feel like people received that when you first started to do it? Like, was it kind of mind-blowing to people, or did people gravitate towards it?
Some of them was amazed. Some of them was, we don't know what the fuck you saying. You rapping too fast. Slow that shit down.
I hear you. But you always like kind of believed in it. Like, were there times where you were like sort of going back and forth, or was it always something where you were like, nah, this is the shit. I'm pushing this the whole way.
Never stayed like that. I always had a writer's block.
Really?
I always had a writer's block. I would let what other artists were doing or what people may be saying influence me too much. So if I saw somebody winning a certain way or doing a certain type of style, you know, because I can pretty much rap any way I want to rap. So a lot of times my abilities were too easy to, you know, and I would hear other things and dabble in this and dabble in that and do certain styles and songs that wasn't really me. You know, then there were certain times I would get into a long writer's block where I couldn't really figure myself out. It took me a while to get to that conclusion of, man, just do you.
Right.
You know, just be Twista. Do you. That's dope by itself. What you looking for?
You know, one thing that always kind of occurs to me when I listen to you rap is that you might have a bar where you're actually saying the same number of syllables that maybe somebody else would in that bar, but what you do is you'll like rap the beginning part of the bar like really fast and then rap like maybe one or two of the syllables. You slow it down. And it's interesting because it's like you're considered to be rapping so fast, but really you're fitting a reasonable amount of thoughts into each bar. It's just that your flow is completely different.
Yeah. A lot of it is to do with just the cadence itself. A lot of times people just think you rapping fast or double time or like different phrases, but it's really just the cadence. I like to be like another instrument. You know, I find it artful to be able to say something meaningful and make sense with what you're saying and still be able to put it together in a cadence where the way you are flowing is sounding like an instrument along with the track.
And what's kind of amazing when you actually look at the Twista Spotify, which I was just digging into for an hour or two yesterday, is that you have just like featured on records by so many ridiculously huge artists over the years.
A lot, yeah.
And I would assume that it's like, it's not really you saying like, hey, Mariah Carey, let me hop on that. No, it's like she saw something in what you're doing that she wanted to bring you in, or somebody on her team. Like most of these records, it's like they look at you as like a weapon that they want to bring in to add something different to a track a lot of times.
Which is dope.
Yeah.
I never heard weapon. I like that.
You can use that.
Thank you.
But
that was always dope, and that was the reward to me of the effort of working on music the way I would work on it sometimes. Like it would take me a half a day to write a verse back then. You know, as I grew into an artist, then I was able to do it faster and work faster. But there were times where it would take me hours and hours and hours to put together a verse because it was so important that these lyrics came out the way I wanted them.
Really?
And so, yeah. So when people like that say, yo, let me get Twista on a song, and when certain artists would come, that would be the reward to me for that hard work. Yeah.
Definitely. Would you at that time was punching in when recording a verse a thing, or would you do one take?
A little of both, depending on what type of energy I wanted.
Really?
If I wanted a natural energy where you can hear me sweating and breathing and getting that whole verse out, and you just hearing it in a raw, then I would do that type of verse and do the whole verse or something like that. But if it's something where I want to perfect it, I'm in a studio, this is for the album, I want to make sure it sounds flawless, then I might punch it, even if I don't have to, just to get certain phrases out here and there.
You get a different effect in terms of like having your breath be, when your breath is fresh for each individual line, then it gives a very different feeling. Like I've heard songs where like a producer told me like he punched in for this one and he didn't punch in for this one, and it really is interesting how the same artist can have a different feel.
Yeah. I like to use it as a tool to, like, why not use it? Like if you know that you can make something sound better by just simply doing a punch and making it flow, then it's cool. But what I don't like is when you cannot rap if you cannot punch.
Right.
That's what I don't like. If you just are not capable of rapping unless you don't punch. I mean, it's cool, you can do your thing, but I'm like, I don't respect it as much.
Sometimes when you listen to a rapper, like a pop star type rapper, and you can just tell that they just like coached them through each bar like 80 takes just to make it sound perfect. And it's just like, that's cool for you, but like, man, like this is so far away from what being a rapper actually was about at one point?
Yeah. You miss a lot of the rawness when you do all of that punching like that. You know, you gotta let some of that rawness out. And then you don't use the punching to make it sound like you a robot and doing phrases that you know a person would have probably took a breath right there. You know, things like that. So
definitely. Have you gotten into sort of like writing in the booth to any extent? Like, you know, the way that nowadays the kids always will just get in the booth and they just make up one line, make up the next line, make up the next line. Can you get into that at all, or are you always going in there with a written?
No, I make songs in all ways because all ways are interesting to me. Even if it's like I don't need anybody to write a song for me, but I might have somebody help write a hook or do something just because I know this big star does it or this big star does it. So I'm like, I want to feel that feeling too. So I'll do that. Like sometimes I'll go to the studio and I won't have a song and I'll start listening to a beat and I might make it as I go along. You know, punch about 4 bars at a time and just keep doing it until the verse is finished. Sometimes I might go in the studio, listen to the beat, and write the whole verse and then go in there and spit it. Sometimes I might write half a verse and then off the top the rest of it.
Right.
Sometimes I might be in the car writing and get the whole song out and come there and I know the whole song. So I try to make songs in all different ways. Sometimes I might just mumble out the cadence of a song
right,
and then come back and feel the words out. You know,
you hear a lot of mumble. That's one thing you wouldn't really know unless you're in the studio with rappers, is how often they'll just do a mumble track and then go in and turn the mumbles into actual words. Which a lot of times the fans have no idea about that, and it's pretty interesting.
A lot of big artists do that. I remember doing a song with Sting. I got lucky and did a song with Sting. Yeah, it was called Stolen Car. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did a song with him, and I had an opportunity to ask a question, and the first thing I asked him was, how does he make songs? And he told me how he comes up with the melody a lot first, and then he may proceed and come up with the words and fill it out as he goes along. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because what you were just saying about, like, I might work with a songwriter. Like, I remember at one point in Snoop's career, he kind of said that. He was like, you know, I've worked with all these big artists, and I see them sometimes, and they be working with a writer, and they'll have amazing results. And he's like, wow, I'm supposed to just never do that just because I'm a rapper? Like, hell no, I'm gonna work with a great songwriter to put together a hit. Fuck it, why not?
Yeah, definitely if it fits what you're doing. Like, I think that's an art within itself to be able to choose a writer to help you do something, and then not only that, be able to deliver what they are writing. A lot of times though, like, I pretty much write all of my stuff,
right,
but what I dabbled into a few times was an artist writing a verse, and then I'll spit that verse and see how it sounds, and then I'll write the second verse, making sure it's matching that to make sure. I don't know, it's something in me as a rapper that can't fully bow down to the writer thing of somebody else. So I make sure that I'm still doing my thing if I do any type of song like that. But it's very, very rare that I do it, though.
But you know what's interesting about it is I feel like when you're young making music, it's so much about your ego. You know, this is about what you have to say and what you want to put out there. And then as you get older, it's kind of like, well, I'm not the greatest writer of all time. I'm not the greatest hook writer of all time. Why wouldn't I, like, get someone to help out or to assist? Because over time it becomes more about, like, I love music and I want to make great music. So I would like to, and once you realize, like, especially in this day and age where, you know, you'll have, like, you'll hear about pop stars and they'll have 8 different writers on one song and 4 producers and shit. Like, everybody just getting in on that. The idea that every Twista song needs to be Twista and a producer and that's it is just like, I realize that is how it's going to work most of the time, but I respect people who are willing to go outside that box, you know?
I got to do it sometimes because I'll just destroy I'll be in destroy mode all the time, and sometimes I need to open it up. So I need to hear some cadence from somebody else every once in a while.
Right.
You know?
How do you feel about the criticism? And I'm sure that you've maybe heard a person or two say this about you over the years, but I find that mostly I hear people say it about Eminem, where people basically accuse him of over rapping and kind of like doing too much on a track. And instead of, you know, maybe being willing to slow it down a little bit or whatever, he has to go mega fast and mega technical on every song. How do you feel about that criticism when you hear people say that about you or any artist?
It's just like some of us as artists, like if we are true rappers or true MCs, we want to take it there from the perception of what a true rapper is. You know, so I respect it. I know what an Eminem is doing. I know how Nas is thinking. I'm knowing how Jay is thinking. I'm knowing how Rakim is thinking. There's a certain perception of what a true lyricist is, and we try to deliver that. You know, there's a certain element to it. So I get that criticism, but I never let it stop me from doing what I'm doing. It's like, it's just there. Like when I make music, it's gotta be a certain way that's gonna make me catch a vibe. You know, it's got to be funky, you know.
I feel you. You know, what's interesting about it is that it's kind of like back in the day, rappers were rapping for other rappers, and nowadays rappers are rapping for like the kids, the fans. Because
I think you hit the point right there.
you know, like,
that's a big point because I think I still rap for other rappers. I think a lot of the rappers that you're talking about, we still rap for other rappers.
Right.
We don't just rap for a person that just wants to hear music, or the average fan. We like really take it there. We rap for other rappers too. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you've heard before, like, oh, Twista's your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. That's like, you know, you hear that from time to time as like a compliment.
Yeah, that's a great compliment.
Yeah, that's a great comment, and that is what it is, because you realize that like a lot of the double entendres and stuff. Sometimes I'll like end up reading an old issue of The Source or like an old book that just like sort of breaks down like a Jay-Z couple of lines and like, look how he, you know, loops these words and these words relate to these words and all that shit. And I'm like, bro, so much of that is completely lost in modern rapping, because I think the fans just aren't really perceptive enough to, and the rappers have sort of all, many of them have realized that like, oh, like you don't have to do that much, and maybe the fans like relate to it more when your lyrics are simple. But
a little bit of all of that, you know, but everybody has a different perception. So me in the space where I'm at, when I'm hearing that, I'm playfully jealous. Damn, I gotta write all these damn rhymes to get, and he go in there and just smooth it out like that, you know. And that's that feeling that you get that make me go in the studio and do some dumb shit and try to do some smooth, slow thing. I don't want to hear that, you know. So I got to be careful with it. But I respect it all. You know, when I hear that, like, to me, even though I do what I do, when I hear another artist make a song that can really take it there, and they are not rapping or doing the amount of work that I'm doing, I respect it, because they didn't have to do what I had to do to achieve that goal. So I respect it too.
Definitely. So you put out your first album in 91, 92, I think you said?
Yeah, running off at the mouth.
And so what is life like becoming a new rapper at that point? Like, are you just on tour constantly doing promo dates and stuff? Like, what was it? And also, just like, how did it feel to all of a sudden just become like the first rapper who was really doing something out of your area? It was
new to me.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of took me by surprise, like, because I just wanted to be a dope rapper and put a record out. All of the rest of the stuff was like, ooh, you know, overwhelming to me. But it was definitely fun, you know, walking into Loud Records, you know, taking the first flight out here, you know, and then we went, walked in Loud Records. When I walked in the door, the first poster I seen was, they were a promotion company at the time. The first poster I seen on the wall was Tupac. What was it? Nah. One of the first records, I think it was Strictly for My Niggas, or one of his first records.
Okay, yeah.
That he had put out. It was a DOS Effects poster, I think, on the wall. So I was like, wow, you know. I think the first tour that I went on was me, Ghetto Boys, and Del the Homo Sapien. And Ghetto Boys' hit at the time was My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me.
Right. One of the best songs of all time.
Yeah. And De La Soul.
Wow.
And I got a chance to kick it with Paz and them backstage, and I was excited because this was my first time being around other rappers. I was like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Damn. So that was your first tour. How long was it?
Ooh, that I can't remember. We definitely did a few dates though.
But
they
was
were
it
all out here.
It was like a week, or was it like a month? Because I feel like that's a huge difference in terms of like
maybe
being
weeks,
around people for that long.
like a week or two,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah,
and
some dates. Yeah,
and that must have just not just been your first time, being around other rappers. This is your first time really being around people who aren't from Chicago too. So you're just complete culture shock, right? Like just
Yeah.
you must have been fascinating to see like how everybody else was living and shit, right?
definitely at that time. At that time, like, man, this De La Soul right here. I'm like, man, we watching them doing mind playing tricks on me. I'm watching De La Sapien do his thing, how he rocking. Like, the whole thing was dope, and it really set me on that path to really, like, go hard at the game.
Was there anything mind-blowing, like, people are doing different drugs, they're smoking different shit, they're dealing with girls in different ways. Was there anything that, like, really kind of stands out to you that blew your mind about, like, just people's lifestyles that were different?
Back then, I don't know, I don't know. What's the question again? Say that again. No, I'm gonna tell you why I paused, because when you were saying that, I was thinking about another dope experience at the time.
Well, just tell me that experience, and I'll come back to this question.
We was in the club. We were out here somewhere, and Eazy-E walked in the club, and the Booyah Tribe was with him, and they was his bodyguards at the time, and I got a chance to get on stage and freestyle with MC Serch.
Holy shit.
This was a dope moment for me.
Right.
Yeah, and then we went outside, and the dude got into it with some dudes out there, and he pulled out a sawed-off pump.
Whoa. That must have been the craziest visual. Like, Eazy-E's little ass just coming through with an army of these fucking Samoan dudes all around him.
It was dope, man. This was dope. This was just to see it. I was like, wow. And I had seen Booyah Tribe a few times, so I was always amazed to see them, and then got on stage and see MC Serch do his thing, and he handed me the mic, and I got a chance to rap. I was like, oh, man.
These are all like people that the average rap fan, even from that era, would not necessarily think of all being in the same club at the same time. Like Twista, Eazy, and Serch all wrapped up in the same situation.
I know, right?
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was real dope.
Definitely. So, yeah, like, was it, sometimes I feel with rappers that sometimes they're only like half in the game of actually wanting to be successful. Sometimes they still sort of have like one foot in the streets. Sometimes there's like part of them that still kind of wants to be a regular person. Were you all in on like, I'm trying to be a superstar, I'm trying to build up my fucking career and just really do this?
No, I mean, I was doing it, but I was still living in the neighborhood, so I'm still around certain people. So definitely was still around the element, but me as a person, never into the element. I was into rapping. So I might have been around certain things and seen certain things, and was on a street vibe enough to do what I was doing, spit the stuff I was spitting, in it like that, but not so much that I would let it take me away from chasing my dream. Yeah, if I felt like something was gonna stop the dream, I was like, whoa.
When we think about Chicago now, it's like usually if a rapper blows up from one side of town, there's another side of town that's pissed off about that rapper blowing up. Was there anybody who was mad that Twista was blowing up?
I always had like a little hate, a little hate here and there. It was always somebody upset at me for some reason when it come to being, in the game. And, I mirror it when I see other artists go through that. And like especially once the internet era kicked off and you got to see what other artists go through, and then I felt more normal, but a lot of times it was a lot of hard days. People put a lot of hard pressure on my mind. You know? Yeah. I
hear it. So, okay, your first album comes out, and then like, how would you describe like where your career kind of goes for like basically you have this big wall of a career in between like you linking up with Kanye, and you have like all these years that you were doing your thing. Like how was that time period of your career where you were really putting in that work and everything? Talk to us about that.
I think that was when I felt what it really felt like to be an artist on that level. That's when I really felt it. That's when I realized that DJs was human too. I thought they was monsters at first. I didn't realize I just had a whack record or I wasn't hot. I thought the DJs was monsters. So once I got a chance to get around a certain element, I perceive things different. I had different conversations with people. And then to like walk into a record store and see a big line all the way around the corner of people waiting for you to walk into a record store so they can sign, so you can sign their autograph, stuff like that. It was amazing. Like to walk into, like to do a House of Blues show and everything is packed wall to walls. Like, man, that stuff was amazing. So, and then doing those shows, like I remember when Jay looked at me, he was like, he looked, because we were doing a sound check and I was about to do Is That Your Chick? And he just said, yeah, that Slow Jam song, you and Kanye should come out with that first. That's a hit. So he was the first person that called it.
Right.
Yeah. And from that moment forward, from that, he spoke it into existence. From that moment forward, that song came out and worked for us. You know, it was good. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So what year would you say that you became associated with Rockefeller, and how long before the actual before those records started to take off?
It was around that time.
Right.
You know, it was around the time we did Is That Your Chick, Slow Jams, those type of records.
Was there ever a time before that era in your career? Because I was just like having a conversation with one of my employees, and I'm like, I know you probably like remember Twista mostly from like that era of doing those records with Kanye, but you got to realize that I knew about him like 10, 12, 15 years before that, and he had a whole leg to his career before he basically like all of a sudden, boom, you got a whole nother leg on your career at that point.
That was crazy.
Was there any time where you were really feeling like maybe shit is slowing down, maybe things are not going so good, maybe this is not necessarily going to work out in that time period there, or was it always pretty good?
In which time period?
In the time before, like Slow Jams and all that, like throughout your career, was there ever a time where you kind of got demotivated there, or was it always pretty good?
It was always a few periods where I got demotivated. You know, I couldn't take advantage of an era like this. You know, we could only do things to a certain extent, and
because your label had to be on board for everything you wanted to do. Otherwise,
So I went through a lot of things where I was trying to be this image of what everybody thought, you know. So I went through a lot of, let me say, mental hardships. You know, I think mental health is definitely an issue that should be addressed a lot, a whole lot. You know, a lot of times when you see something happen, you know, it's usually some form of mental problem or trauma that causes situations anyway. So, you know, I went through a lot of stuff just coming up in the game and just being depressed about not being in this space or that space. And I don't know, one day I just mellowed out, you know. I don't know. Once you get the legend living, like my boy Pastor Troy said, you know, legend living, you just be you cool. I'm comfortable in my skin. I make music the way I want to make it. I do what I want to do. I'm happy with me, you know.
That's interesting because that's the thing that you kind of gain over time when you're like, you know what, I am what I am. And I mean, that's certainly the place where you're in, where it's like you never really probably have to make another song in your life, and you're still Twista, and you still could do all these different things in the culture and shit, and it really probably don't matter if you put out another record. I think that is almost like the definition of a legend, is when you can kind of your prior accolades are so notable that you can kind of chill.
Yeah, I think we will always love making music though. Like if you're a true artist, you will always make music to the day you die.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, I feel that.
Rest in peace to DMX too.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, how much interaction with him you have throughout your life?
Not a lot. I only seen him a few times. I got a beat before, maybe a couple of beats before from Swiss Beats.
Right.
You know, I got on with Dragon on.
See, I saw that. Before. I typed Twista DMX into YouTube to see if you guys had ever worked together. Yeah.
No,
and I saw that Dragon song.
I didn't get that blessing, but that's a brother that shouldn't have been taken from us, and I just want to say rest in peace to him.
Yeah, that's a sad one. To me, DMX is kind of like the soundtrack to like 8th grade. Like that's when the 1998, I think, was when he had 2 #1 albums in a year.
I know. Yeah, he went crazy that year, man.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Okay, so yeah, like when you kind of link up with Rockefeller, though, what's your perspective on it? Because they were like the hottest label in the game at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I was on cloud 9, you know, being with them. I was still attached to Atlantic at the same time, and that's why it didn't really take off where we could have took it, because, you know, you had 2 different companies. So, you know, that was the problem. But as far as the experience within itself, it was dope. You know, being around the guys, you know, Freeway and all of them. You know, Freeway ended up becoming one of my buddies. You know, Memphis Bleak, all of those guys. You know, just being able to hang around them during the tour and stuff like that, it was real dope. Being around Dame, you know, Dame's real dope.
Who kind of brought you into the fold at Rockefeller? Was that Dame or was it Jay or?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of both, but definitely Jay with the music from the musical perspective, and Dame from the business. But I mean, a little bit of both. I got a vibe with both of them. You know, yeah.
And so for Kanye, that was just like, it wasn't because of Kanye that you came in? Like, did you know
That
Kanye
too.
prior?
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
Okay.
that too. And I knew him prior as well. You know, we used to see him at clubs in Chicago. I had been at his house listening to him do beats.
Really?
Before he became famous. Yeah.
Because you got to think, like, a lot of times I notice that rappers, well, not a lot, but sometimes, like G-Unit, like when G-Unit blows up, 50 sort of looks at artists that he respects, but that came out way before him, and he says, I'm going to try to take Mobb Deep and MOP and sort of revitalize their careers at that point, you know? I feel like with Kanye, it's kind of crazy that super early in his career, he was able to basically like engineer the biggest moment in the biggest Chicago legend's career. Like Kanye kind of like makes himself the most legendary producer from Chicago ever by being able to say like, you know what? Twista has been legendary as fuck for 10, 15 years. We're going to take Twista's career and we're going to fucking completely like make everybody look at him like a brand new artist. That's a fucking legendary thing to be a part of.
Yeah, dude is a damn genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a genius. And you know what they say about genius people, you know? They say we get a little wacky sometimes, you know? So,
for sure. When's the last time you talked to Kanye?
it's been a while. I haven't talked to him in a while. If I wanted to reach out to him, it wouldn't be a problem, you know? I know people that's close to him. It wouldn't be a problem, you know?
Definitely. Would you say, when you were saying the thing about depression earlier, that's kind of interesting because I feel like nowadays it's very normal for a rapper to be honest about being depressed. Like if you were to say, hey, like I know y'all might not have seen me for the last year, it's because I've been going through a lot of shit, I've been depressed. That'd be a normal thing to say now. Back at that time though, it was probably like pretty taboo for you to even say that I'm depressed.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like trying to, you know, not being able to be able to communicate that so much?
I mean, it's dope when you see people like G Herbo bring light to stuff like that, you know. I'm definitely glad that we are in a place now where people can talk about it and be open. And then also to see the root of a lot of stuff, you know. You get out there and you're like, oh, do this or do that, or you got to stop this or stop that. A lot of times it'll be some mental issue or trauma that has a person acting out.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's so much shit in rap that we think is normal and we act like it's normal. Like, you know, I'll interview people, you know, every week I feel like I'm interviewing somebody that has a story about how they saw somebody get killed in front of them when they were 10 years old or whatever. And it's like, this culture just sort of acts like that's all good. I mean, that shit'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it definitely will, especially coming from where I came from.
Yeah. But it's like so normal in a lot of places that people don't even really take the time to sort of examine what that might have done. You seeing something that horrible at a young age, you know, and then you get older and you kind of look at it more objectively. It's like the only way that society can kind of get better is if people are willing to have conversations about these things, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely about that, having conversations.
Definitely. So, okay, you get around Rockefeller. How did those songs actually come about? Like Overnight Celebrity in particular. How does it come about? And like, was it Kanye like really sort of being like, Twista, we got to do these songs? Like what were those sessions like?
Slow jams. He had a vibe for that. You know,
Yeah.
He had the way he wanted it to go and everything, and I was just glad to be a part of it. And I wanted to make sure my verse was on fire. You know, I wanted to make sure I did my thing on that song, and from that, I started to have a mind state on where I wanted to take it. So Overnight Celebrity was a little bit of my idea as far as the sample, but then his idea as far as the way he put it together.
Right.
You know, so that was a song I was glad to have, and that turned into something. I was scared when I wrote that song because
Really?
Slow Jams was out. I'm like, what else I'm gonna write? You know, so I'm like, damn, what the hell am I write? You know, so I was like, man, I went through some mental hell writing Overnight Celebrity. But once I got that flow pattern, it was over.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy because, I mean, a lot of your content was like very aggressive in your career prior to that. Like, was that kind of like a big change? I know you'd always had like softer records and stuff, but that was like, It's kind of like a whole different sound. Like let's pair the super fast rapping with these soul samples and all the singing and shit. Like it created like a different aesthetic.
Yeah, it was, and I think you know, it was something new to the ear. You know, and then him doing what he's doing. Like if you put people together that got a good skill set, you're gonna get some. You know, you're gonna get something tight. So I feel like putting us together at that time, at any time, you're gonna get something tight. You know,
definitely. Do you feel like if Kanye hadn't blown up as a rapper, that you guys might have continued to do a lot more crazy records after that?
Who knows? Maybe so. You know, who knows? Maybe so. And we still might do some good records. This
is true.
Yeah.
Freeway put you onto the backwoods.
Yeah.
You said that in another song.
He did.
That's interesting, because that was probably like 15 fucking years before we started smoking backwoods. So you definitely had something on us.
Yeah, it was a while back.
Definitely.
Yeah, I remember smoking the backwood, and then we got to a point later on, and I hit a swisher, and I was like, ugh, no, I got to stick with these backwoods.
Right. It feels kind of cardboardy once you get used to the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we know. Definitely. That's interesting though. Like, did you ever stop smoking weed or slow down or anything, or you still smoke?
Yeah, like very rarely. Like, you know, I pretty much chilled out. Like since I became a firearm instructor, I don't really do it. You know?
Really?
So, yeah.
An instructor.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
Man, once we got into quarantine, like I've always been into firearms a certain way, but once we got into quarantine, my buddy, his name is actually creative too. He's a training counselor in Chicago, and he can train you to become an instructor. So I took the course, became an instructor, and started flourishing, and that's why I got this hat, the gun camp.
Oh,
so
wow,
y'all know it's called a gun camp. And yeah, I'm a USCCA instructor, NRA instructor.
So do you have an actual gig consistently teaching classes or something, like, or what are you doing?
I try to do it every week. You know, me and my buddy, we got classes. We try to do it every week, but you know, I'm starting to do a lot of shows, a lot of other things be happening, but we try to keep it consistent. And you know, because I want my people out here to be educated about firearms. People got misconceptions about guns and firearms, and I want to teach them the right way. Right.
Like, I don't even know if you have fully thought about how crazy that kind of narrative is like, you know, you're from one of the places that has the worst reputation for gun violence.
Yeah.
What does Twista do?
Gun laws too.
Decides that he's going to get into the business of teaching people how to be more safe about them.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
But in Chicago, like, are you able to own firearms?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're legally able to?
Yeah.
I just know that their laws are a little wacky.
All my guns legal when I want some goddamn mo.
How do you feel about it when you know, there's a lot of people who want to take all the guns away, or at least make it like extremely difficult for anyone to possess a firearm. What are your thoughts on that?
Even with that situation, like mental health, I think, you know, just as much as you want to pay attention to that kind of problem, you got to pay attention to the person. You know, any object is just an object until someone with a personality picks it up. Someone with an emotion, a mind picks it up. So I think still you get into the issue of mental health when you talk about gun violence in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because if there wasn't the mental health crisis that we seemingly are having in this country, then the guns wouldn't be a big deal. I mean, nobody has a problem with people having a pistol for safety. People have a problem with the fact that now somebody can decide that they want to make a big splash on the internet, and they can go shoot up a Walmart, and then they're going to be the most talked about person for a week, and they'll be able to broadcast it on Instagram Live and have everybody see it. I mean, that's the fucked up part. I personally, I'm super pro gun as well. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because from my perspective, like, I remember when I had G Herbo on here one time, and he had got caught up, like, he's driving around with a bunch of guns with his friends. The cops pull him over, and when the cops are arresting him and his friends, they didn't say you shouldn't have a gun. They said you should have paid security. Like, the cops are not in the dark about the fact that if you're G Herbo, driving around in the city with no gun is just suicide. But they want you to have to fucking pay a security guard to do it for you. And I mean, that right there shows like how dishonest the anti-gun position is that everybody knows that you need this to protect yourself, but you're going to go throw this guy in jail for it.
Yeah, and that's where we, people like me come into play to educate people with not only how to use a firearm, but your Second Amendment right, and the proper way to own a firearm. Because a lot of them, they got a firearm for the same reason a person that's legal has one, and a lot of them get a bad rap for having one who only wanted to simply protect themselves. So I think, you got different perspectives when you come with, when you're talking about guns, like it's too broad. You got families that eat from this from generation to generation. So I think we need to deal with specifics, a little more in depth, like security and mental health and other things like that.
I hear it. Okay, one thing that I wanted to ask you about is, personally, Purple Haze is one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time. How did Cameron end up basically like utilizing a song that you already had for I think the first track or was the second track on the album? How did that happen?
Yeah, man, Cameron is he just fly with his brain, man. Cameron just has a fly brain. And luckily that fly brain was a Twista fan. He came to Chicago. He knew who was on the song. He got my man Buck from Psychodrama on the song. He got me on the song. He had this whole vision put together on how he wanted to sound. And we got in the studio and we made that happen, man.
So he had already heard the song and was just like, I want to do my own version of this with you guys?
Yeah, he came to Chicago. He was in the Chicago studio and called us down to get with him. And we came up with that whole concept in Chicago.
That's crazy. I was going to ask you what was up with Psychodrama, because I was trying to Google it and like figure out what I could figure out from that, and there's not that much online about that.
They actually about to put out a new project.
Really?
Yeah, I saw Dion Cole like it, everything. I was like, oh man, they about to drop another one.
What was your relationship with them at the time that you already had that song with them? That was just a random song to you that you had done with them?
Which one?
Or was that your artist, the Adrenaline Rush?
No, Buck, he was doing his own thing, but I always was a fan of him.
Okay.
And I knew that I had this light, shrieky voice, and I knew he had this deep, dark voice.
Rush.
And so we had this darkness, light type of vibe, and we was thinking all deep with it at the time, and we wanted to just combine this sound and feeling together, and man, it came out like I wanted it. It was dope. Like, we made that song in a dark house, carpet, no furniture. I think he was laying on the floor writing his verse in the living room part. I was laying on the floor writing my verse in the dining room part. And we had the beat playing loud, and it was dark in the house, and we was writing a song.
But you had already been a rapper for a long-ass time at that point, right?
Yeah.
But you were just still in the trenches?
It was just, the house just didn't have furniture.
Oh.
It was just
a lot of rap
clean,
houses are like that, yeah.
Yeah, it just was good, clean carpet on the floor, and it didn't have furniture at the time. But we were still chilling in it, doing our thing, writing songs and kicking it.
Respect. That's dope. Yeah, what Cameron in Chicago though, like how was the vibe like from that studio session? I'm so fascinated by him in particular in that era of his life. Like he just seemed like such a crazy creative person.
They was really in it, man. Like that's when I saw them Dipset and Hard doing their thing. Like that was when they was getting it cracking, moving around to different towns and stuff like that. And when they was in Chi-Town, they was cool, man. Yeah, it was real cool.
On that song, you say murdering the enemy is the ultimate adrenaline rush.
Did I say that on there?
That's some dark shit. I was like, man, that sounds like some shit that some kids from Chicago would say these days.
Man, I said something on, what I say? I'll murder me to murder you. I said that on a song before.
Oof. Like,
kill
yourself to kill them?
Yeah. When you get in that music zone, man, you just, I got to be careful because I might say anything once I get in that music zone.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting, though. Like, nowadays, like, if a rapper says some crazy-ass shit on a song, it's kind of like people expect that to be a real thing. But, like, it's like you come from a generation where it was more like, I'm going to murder you, but you really mean I'm going to rap really good and better than you. And that's what that's about. Yeah,
it's understood once you realize, like, I listen to Wu-Tang, Grave Diggers. So I listen to Grave Diggers, so leave me the fuck alone when I say my gory shit.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think about that sometimes for sure. Okay, I wanted to ask you about this thing that I saw popping off on YouTube at one point. Basically, there's a clip that came out, and I'm not sure if you ever commented on this, but it's basically a clip of Bump J making a claim saying that at one point one of his friends had a altercation with you. Do you have any recollection of this?
Nah. What happened now? What'd he say?
He said that one of his friends robbed you back in the day.
Well, damn.
Do you recall that, or have any comment?
I can't recall.
Respect. It'd be like that sometimes. Okay. I guess another thing I could ask you about was when you did the song with Lil Jon and Trick Daddy back in the day over the Ozzy Osbourne beat.
I can recall.
Oh, music? Yeah, we could talk about some music. Okay. What's your recollection of how that song came together?
Lil Jon's energy, man. Being in his house, he had that big ass mix board in his house in that room, playing all these different tracks. I'm mad I didn't rap on half the tracks he gave me. So he gave me some dope ass tracks. I didn't rap on them because I didn't like them. They were too fucking colossal for my brain at the time. I wasn't at the place that I should have been mentally to conquer those tracks the way I should have.
That's interesting. Like certain eras in your life where you end up basically like kind of not realizing the greatness that you're around in that moment.
Yeah, I was scared of a lot of tracks, man. It was a lot of music. I would get a dope ass beat, and my fucking confidence wasn't up enough to think that I could kill this beat the way I thought this artist would kill it or that artist would kill it, and I would end up passing on a dope beat. Because I couldn't get that mentally. Yeah,
that's interesting because a lot of times now artists come out who really can only rap over one type of beat, and you never really hear them rap on different types of production, but your catalog is full of you just basically hopping on like almost any kind of song.
Yeah, I actually will rap on anything I like. I don't really think about money first when it comes to stuff like that. Like if I like a song, I'll rap on it. It don't matter how big you are or nothing. If that beat hits me a certain way and a certain conversation or something strike up where, it turns out where I'm, in a position to rap on a song, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No fear. What about that Mariah Carey link up from back day? Were you actually back in the day? Were you actually around her?
It's actually 2 songs I got with her. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
One on your song and one on her song?
No, both of them are hers.
Oh,
I
wow,
wish
okay.
one of them was mine. Yeah. So which one are you referring to?
I can't actually remember,
So
but I would love
Lonely?
to hear about either of them.
It's So Lonely. That's my joint right there. One was a little more slow. I think Mariah had told me that she got an idea from The Brat. The Brat told her to get a song or a beat from my guy from Chicago at the time, and Traxter. And when she got the beat, she called to get me on the beat. And so I was like, wow, it still all worked out for the best. And I was happy to get on that song. And then we did the other song, So Lonely. She came again. I was like, dope,
Yeah. When you did that with Mariah Carey, though, like, how did you approach it, or how big a deal did it seem like? Because we think of her as being so massive. Was this super early on where maybe she wasn't as massive?
Yeah, no, it felt the same way. The first song came easy to me because it was a Traxter beat and we got that magic together.
Yeah.
So once me and him make something, it ain't nothing. It's going down. The next beat wasn't a Traxter beat, so I'm stuck with the Mariah thought. And even though the song came out cool, my lyrics were not what they would probably be if I was in a different mind state. I was too in, damn, it's Mariah mind state. And it had me trying to write what I thought was a hit. And it's cool. I don't like it that much.
Yeah. Do you look at songs that you wrote where you were trying to make a hit? Do you often sort of end up looking back at them and being like, ugh, it's not my best work?
Yeah. It's when I did Give It Up with Pharrell, he had another damn song I wish I'd done before I did Give It Up.
Right.
I liked the other song better than I liked Give It Up, and it haunted me in my brain. I was like, damn, I should have did the other song.
Wow.
Even though I like Give It Up too.
That's interesting. Or do you find that your favorite songs from yourself end up being the super technical lyrical stuff? Like I was listening to songs that you've done with Tech Nine and stuff, and I'm like, man, this is completely different version of Twista. This is Twista when he doesn't have to tone himself down at all and just gets to go full crazy ass beast mode rapper.
Yeah. What about it?
Which one do you feel like you end up appreciating that stuff more, or like compare that experience of doing a song with Tech Nine to doing a song with a pop star?
The song with the pop star, you feel like you're getting an opportunity. The song with Tech Nine, I'm on there with my buddy and we finna test some shit up. Yeah.
Just going crazy on it. Yeah. Much respect. I saw also when I was just doing my deep Twista dive on YouTube, I saw this footage of there's like a legendary Chief Keef, Lil Durk, etc. show from back in the day that you were on as well, and it was like super viral at the time because they just had 5 million fucking people on stage during the show, and it just looked absolutely insane.
Damn,
and
do I remember this show? I don't know if I remember the show.
you can't remember because it's been so long.
I'm trying to remember. Was it a stage?
Yeah.
Okay. Where was it?
I have no idea.
We were out here one time on the stage. It was dope. Yeah, we kicked it hard out here one time. We were on stage going nuts.
Right.
So it probably was that.
When you look at that new generation of Chicago rappers and stuff, what is your overall thoughts? Do you feel like you usually get the amount of respect that you feel like you deserve? How do you feel about seeing them just have so many of these rappers blowing up from your city?
Yeah, maybe for a moment, I think I wasn't gonna get a certain type of respect from the young rappers because they were young. But I think the more they became artists,
right,
they probably realized some of the shit that I was going through and they related. And then, I became a certain, I became cool. Like to some of them, I'm Big Unk, like Snoop out here. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the artists in Chicago look at me like Big Bro or something like that. So it's always a cool vibe. I always been a fan of all of the young guys coming out of the city. Like when I see him, I was one of the first Chief Keef fans. I was out there with trying to get in the video. The old man out there with the young bull. You know,
definitely. No, yeah. I mean, I can't say that without also having to say, rest in peace, King Von. Rest in peace, FBG Duck. Like there's just been so many talented Chicago artists lost over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Do you? How much of your time goes into looking at new talent or wanting to work with new talent?
I love listening to new talent. I used to want to work with new talent a lot more than these days, but lately, in saying that, it's kind of opposite of what's going on because there's a new project coming out on 420 with my guy from Chicago called Rello the Dreamer, and this project is called News at 9, and I think people gonna love the project because it's dope and it's some music that you want to hear. It's music you hear the young bull talking about going for his dreams. He got his label put together. He comes to work in my studio all the time. I'm like, you know what? We gonna do this. He wanted to do a project. I'm like, I want to be on something hot like this. I'm like, at my stage, I'm like, okay, youngin' gonna keep me in the game. You know what I'm saying? We gonna do this project. So definitely the project is dope. Called News at 9, coming out 420. Rello the Dreamer.
But what was it that made you decide that you actually wanted to work with him on that? Because I know that
smooth voice, picking dope beats. Walking in the studio every day, hearing songs that I wanted to be mine, this type of stuff, So it was an easy decision to want to get on with them, and an easy thought process when I realized this gonna come out. Everybody gonna love this. They gonna like this vibe from Twista. This, I did this verse to this because it sounded like So just the project being put together with the great musical mind state, people gonna really like it.
That's dope. Hell yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you about this one too, is that you were actually on acid rap with Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa like super early in his career. What's your memory of working on that?
That was dope. He came to an in-store we had. We was at a store up north, and he came there, and we had to just chill with the fans and do a little something. And me and him got a chance to vibe out and exchange numbers.
But you already knew who he was? He had a wave going in the city?
Yeah, I already knew who he was.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew he was coming up, So I was excited about getting that opportunity too, So when I heard that song though too, I was like, ooh, I'm about to kill this.
Right.
Him and Vic was killing it on there. I was like, I was in my mind state that time though, so
Right.
I was like, I know what I'm gonna do to this one. So that song right there, "Cocoa Butter Kisses," is one of my favorite songs.
That's interesting. As Chance the Rapper, did he ever tell you that you were like very influential on his style of rapping?
Around that time, yeah. He definitely shared that with me. You know, I got a good vibe and relationship with him. His brother's cool, parents cool, and everything. Yeah.
Because that's one thing I was thinking is that if you listen to a lot of the Chicago rappers, you can't really, they respect you for sure, but you can't really hear a lot of your style in a lot of the drill rappers, you know, like they basically just ended up going their own way direction wise. But when you hear Chance rap, I could definitely imagine that he was listening to you and that he took things from what you were doing style wise.
Yeah, like if I hear something like that, like I'm always happy about it at this stage. You know, if it's like your peer, you younger, it's a certain thought process, but at this stage in my career, I want to be influential with the sound that I've put into the game, the years I've put into the game. So to hear any artist that will come out emulating me in any fashion is always looked at by me as a compliment. So I'm like, damn, sound like a young version of me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always into it.
That's fire. I also wanted to ask, are you going to do a versus battle?
I don't know. If the right one come up, you know.
Right.
You know, I hear stuff get thrown around, but you know.
They were throwing
the
around
right one
Busta
come up.
Rhymes.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I think Busta got his mind like set on other people and other thought, you know, a different type of thought process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when you think about Busta, there's a lot of big hits that you got to contend with there. I mean, you got a lot of big hits too, so it would be interesting. But damn, he's had some big ass records over the years.
yeah, it don't matter who I do something like that with though. We gonna rock out.
He's
you
like,
know?
I ain't scared about
You know,
nobody.
yeah, I ain't scared of nobody. But and then we gonna rock out too. You know,
Right.
the whole vibe of it is gonna be dope. I think I got enough in the tank to be on there and create a great ass versus with somebody anyway.
What about Common?
Regardless of who it is.
You guys came out together. That'd be huge for Chicago.
Two different sounds.
Very different. This
You
is
know,
true.
Very
yeah.
different sounds.
There's nobody on your agenda though. Nobody you really just don't like that you'd love to just fuck up. Because you could do the Gucci Jeezy model. You just basically do it with your biggest op, you know?
But that's what I'm saying. You got different versions of a versus battle. You got versus battles where you know, I think early on it was maybe a little bit of a negative tone in that. And I think right around now, everybody is trying to be in a space of good energy
Right.
and shit like that. So I think a versus battle right now should be more of a celebrated party by two dope artists doing their thing together. Like, wow, this person, they gonna be going back and forth playing their hits. Like, you know, that in itself should be appreciated. We shouldn't have to take it to another level all the time just to be appreciated, or should I say for people to be appreciated or artists to be appreciated.
Yeah, 100%. Because, I mean, I think Gucci and Jeezy made the versus thing bigger than it'll probably ever be again. Because that's like, you know, it's
that's just them. You know what I'm saying? But everybody is not Gucci and Jeezy.
right. And there can only be so many of those. Like, that was a rare situation. Because realistically, if there's somebody who, you know, was responsible for someone in your life losing their life, you probably don't want to get on the same stage with them.
Yeah.
The fact that they did is pretty amazing.
That's, you know, man, it's Gucci and Jeezy, you know.
Still kind of can't believe it happened. I remember it was on live and I was driving home watching it, just laughing and freaking out in the car. Like, couldn't believe what I was viewing.
I was rocking out to them songs, baby.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, he playing this one. Damn, he playing this one.
Facts. I did, before we wrap this up, I just really wanted to at least try and ask you about the video that went sort of viral and ended up on TMZ of you and your homie beating some guy's ass outside of a bus.
That was funny as hell.
Can we hear that? What happened?
Motherfucker.
Twista with a motherfucker in a headlock. Never thought I would see it.
My manager was there. Man,
And your
it went
homie was
down.
throwing those body shots. It's like you could hear his fucking ribs breaking when he was
Man.
punching him, dude.
See, I'ma tell you, I had no intentions in being in anything like that.
I didn't
but
think so because you've gone like your whole career with. I don't know if I ever heard about Twista beating somebody up. Really, like that's never been the thing we heard about with you.
This dude was going pretty hard, and when the whole situation kicked off between him and my guy, man, it was crazy. I just know how me and my brother used to fight when we was little, and so that's what my mind state was catch him in his blind spot, get him in a headlock, and let my brother beat the shit out of him. That's the way me and my brother used to fight. So
Right.
dude couldn't, he was going nuts trying to get an angle. He was a beast though. He was a bear, so but he couldn't get a good angle or position and watch both of us at the same time. Because I was gonna be on the opposite side. He slipped one time. And that's all it took.
And then you never had to hear about this afterwards? You never got a lawsuit or you never got arrested or anything like that?
Nah, man, don't even bring that. What you talking about?
That was years ago.
I keep my head up, though. I keep my head up, number one. Number two, he started it, So I think my brother knew he was in the wrong. But definitely I wish that situation wouldn't have happened. And I hope we didn't end up hurt or anything like that. But don't drink that much, man. Watch your mouth.
It's one of them. It was wasted.
Man, I don't know what was wrong, but he got himself into a situation.
I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so anything else that we should update ourselves on here? Anything else that we need to know about in terms of Twista?
Man, I would love to introduce Rello, man. I brought him here with me, man.
I was gonna say, yeah. Can we pull up another mic so we can get an introduction to your artist over here?
Yo, what's up, bro?
What's up, man?
I'm all good. How you feeling?
Great. So our guy here, Twista, speaks very, very favorably about you. From your perspective, how did you guys meet, and what did you think of him going into it?
I was working in the studio, right, with Sonny, one of the other producers, It took like 2 years of working in that motherfucker for him to hit my shit and like, okay, this nigga nice. So I was in that motherfucker, when he come in that bitch and sit down and chill, I make sure I record some dope ass shit. He downstairs listening to it. So one day, his homie came up to like, man, this shit cold. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, this nigga rocking out with me, you feel me?
Right.
So, and then I'm like, okay, let's do an EP. We made the shit happen, locked in, 420.
Damn.
We was at 9.
That's dope. So what's the chemistry like? Like, how would you say your styles complement each other?
Oh, man, it's great. Because, like I say, everybody know he a legend, you feel me? So when I go in the studio and make anything with him, I got to make sure the bars A1. Everything got to be
killing it.
Everything got to be everything got to be in order, you know what I'm saying? So, and we go back and forth with each other, you know what I'm saying? Perfectly.
How would you do you ever get close to the level of like speed and technicality that he does, or is your style different? Because I haven't actually heard you yet.
We got a song we did something like that on the project, but I ain't going as fast as he be going, you know what I'm saying? But I tried to keep up with him a little bit, It's a track on the project.
He did his thing though.
It's called 2021 Originator, you know what I'm saying? So trying to keep up with him, but can't do that too damn fast.
That's what's up. You're from Chicago though?
Chicago South Side.
Okay, that's what's up. Damn. That's dope. Yeah. Anything else that you have out there, or anything we need to know about?
Your label.
I got a whole label, Creative Minds and Goals. I got artists, producers, work under me. We all work together. So it's not just me that I'm trying to put on. Got a whole clique of creatives, and we all coming. Coming soon.
Fire. No, yeah, definitely. I got to hear this project. I'm trying to check that out for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those. I think the world gonna love it. One of those. Like he say, it's gonna give another little start to some new shit for everybody,
Fire.
For sure.
Yeah,
I have to hear it, man.
It's real dope.
That's a serious cosign right there. Damn, I just realized this weed has a QR code on it. We get digitally high. We can't get you to smoke a blunt with us?
Nah. I'm chilling. Different mind state right now.
Yeah.
We got some edibles. All right, Twista, it was a good time. You didn't have a conversation. I noticed you haven't done a ton of interviews over the years.
Every once in a while, I do them. I do them. Not a whole lot.
Right.
I do them. I don't be trying to hide in the cut or nothing. I just been on my thing. I've been shooting targets.
I just think it's kind of like rare, like a good Twista interview. Like there's not that. If you go to YouTube and type in Twista interview, you really
I try
find
to tell you
good
some
ones
stuff that I ain't really told in the interview. Like I ain't really broke down the De La Soul and all. Like so, I'm trying to tell you. I was, let me hit on a few things that I hadn't hit on nowhere else.
Definitely. No, I appreciate it, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking out the project.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, it's dope.
What's your social media, just for anyone who wants to check it out?
All right, social media, Twitter, Rello Dreamer. That's RELLO Dreamer. Instagram, Rello Dreamer _. Definitely give me a follow for sure.
For sure, man. Appreciate it. Twista, thank you so much.
You dig? No jumper, baby.
We did it. We did it.
You dig?
There it is.
Thank you, my brother.
Twista, No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. Check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Like, comment, and subscribe. And NoJumper.com if you want to support. We will see y'all streaming your music on Fridays. Appreciate you, man.
E.
Yes, sir.